to approve June's minutes, please?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Guys hear Tom speaking to the microphone? Or did you hear Tom speaking to the microphone?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think it was coming in and out, but it looks like you've unmuted now, so I can hear him on my end.
Nancy?
Yes.
Lawrence, can you hear Tom speaking?
I can hear Tom.
Nancy?
Speak,
All
Tom.
good.
Hello,
Yes.
test 1, 2, 3.
Gotcha.
There we go. All right, on to public comments, and I don't see any public here, so if there's none online, then I guess we can move to new business, which would be our MSD annual survey.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we are taking a look at our former MSD surveys. We have, it is part of our contract to perform these surveys on an annual basis. Due to COVID and for other reasons, we have not been able to put a survey out since December or February of 2020. Yeah, 2020. And so I would just like to review the previous list of questions that we put on our survey back in 2020 to see if the committee members had any additional questions to add or just get some comments and thoughts on what we could do differently this year than we have done in the past to get a good participation rate in the and also get some good feedback from our patrons and property owners downtown. So I believe, Veronica, did you include that in the packet, the list of questions? Here we go. So we provided just a brief overview of what WDI does and the way we manage the MSD services. And overall, the questions are pretty straightforward. If you look through and see, am I generally familiar with the goals established, and just making sure people understand what the MSD is and how it best serves them. And then going on to the other portion of the questionnaire, we offer a opportunity to give additional comments, additional information about the property owner, and really that's it. So I think we have a good grouping of questions, unless the committee would like us to ask additional questions as well. So I'll let you guys take a few minutes just to review the sheets and make comment. So does everybody have a general understanding of what it is, and any comments to make on the questionnaire?
You might want to take out the question about the flower baskets hanging on Front Street. People asking people if they thought it enhanced or made it more beautiful, since we don't do that.
Yes, I would actually like to replace that question with, what additional landscaping needs are needed downtown?
Good. Mm-hmm.
How did the surveys go out?
The surveys went out through SurveyMonkey online. And I believe we need to mail them out.
Christina Chance here. This predates me a little bit. Did we mail them out to every known property address within the district? Was that the mailer that went out, and then electronically through WDI's subscription list. Do you have history of what Ed or Holly had done previously in terms of that?
Well, we kind of piggybacked it, so I don't mean to jump in. We piggybacked it before Chance with a survey and quasi annual report, which has to be snail mailed per statute for an MSD, I believe.
I guess my question always is like, when they go out via snail mail, which is actually probably, I guess, what you would say more accurate. The problem is that are they getting to the property owner, or are they getting to the person that's leasing the property? And I mean, who do we want filling the survey out? I would think the owner of the property, because they're typically the ones that are paying the taxes, although sometimes it depends on the lease, and that kind of thing. But
Ray, if I remember correctly, the last time Ed did it was anybody that was paying the MSD tax. So whether that was the tenant or the landlord or both, they would have both gotten a survey.
well, it's always the landlord.
Right.
Yeah, even if they're leasing, it's because it's going through the property taxes are always through the landlord. It just depends on if what's in their lease as far as their, if they're paying triple net or whatever. But I don't know. I'm just trying to see where they're going.
I think it'd be good if it went to the landowner and the tenant. They're often different. It might be good to add something about the 2 new police officers and maybe some questions about probe their understanding of the rate of taxation and how that has increased. And I do like the connection between MSD and WDI, because I don't think a lot of people understand that that's one of the big WDI sources of money.
Noted. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hey, Christina, Chance here. To property owners, pretty easy via snail mail. It's essentially registered owner's address on file with, the county's tax offices within the district. In terms of the tenant, could we utilize the ambassadors face to face with some folks with a good outreach to storefronts and known tenants that essentially aren't property owners, with like a QR code, kind of a printed QR code that could take them to the survey. So we're covering both the property owners and the tenants, because I think that input from both entities could be starkly different at times, and I think having both inputs is definitely valuable.
Well, to answer everybody's question, question 18 on the sheet helps identify where this person is, if they're a business owner, a property owner, MSD resident, downtown worker, visitor. So we can designate that question again on the survey to maybe a little bit higher, so we can get a good idea of who we're surveying and who we're getting feedback from. As far as using the ambassadors, I mean, I could try and do that, but I feel it's up to WDI staff to perform the survey and not to take away from ambassador hours and the hospitality and business contacts that they should have to perform this survey on their own. I'll have to speak with our operations manager about that, see if he can designate the time. If it was in the winter time, I think we could, but I want to try and get this survey out in the next couple of weeks, because we are already over the end of the fiscal year.
I love that idea to do flyers, and I don't know how thickly staffed WDI is, but I used to pass out flyers for the House of Blues, and I could do a block in 5 minutes. So I like the idea of keeping it off of the ambassador's workload, but doing the flyers might even be more cost effective than the mailing for the actual physical tenants, not the landowners. And you'll meet people.
I think most apartment buildings have property managers. Maybe if we went through the property managers, they could pass it on to the tenants of the building.
Sure.
That would get a mass distribution that way. I mean, like River Place, you give it to the property manager, they'll do the apartments, the property owners, all in one shoot.
Well, I'd like to hit all means of reaching folks, whether it be through social media, promoting the survey online, sending it out via email, on top of doing, what we need to do to to satisfy statute.
I agree.
You know, I can send a link to the property owners and they can distribute it in their emailing list, perhaps. I can also hand out physical copies and take it away from our marketing budget. You know, that can be a designated portion of our marketing budget for the MSD. But either way, you know, the more avenues we have for the survey to reach folks, the more response we'll get. And I don't think we received a whole lot of response online the last time we did it. And I would have to dig and see what mailing responses we received for it. We also have to, you know, go through and analyze each one that comes back via mail as well. And, you know, it is just myself and one other staff member. So we'll do our best to make sure that we get these and get them back in a timely manner to the committee.
I understand.
Did you include a self-addressed envelope for them to send the answers back?
Yes, we would have to do that.
A lot of postage.
But this is so important because I don't think the community's really been tapped as far as the opinion in a while. So probably worth the deductible cost, right?
Oh, yeah, with that and the flyers and the email, I think all of the above.
I have to
Hey,
agree
Chris-
with, I have to agree with Chance. You know, I think it's a really great way of utilizing the ambassadors. You know, I've personally done these in years past, gone block by block and done surveys. And it's just a great way to walk in and introduce yourself and get to know the, you know, people that either work there or own or whatever. So, and that's, and you get much better responses. If you just send out a blast of emails, you're going to get little to nothing. If you put it in snail mail, you'll get some. But if you go if people go door to door, that's when you're going to get, and that's when you're going to get it, the good answers and the conversation. So, just something historically.
Sure. And I do have our one full-time staff member, other than myself, working on that peer survey. And she's been handing out packets of information regarding our microloan program and our facade improvement grant program. So that I can have this added as an addition on her load as well, to perform the survey while she's doing the peer survey.
All right, thank you, Christina. Anything else? And we're back to Christina for our strategic work plan.
Hey, Tom, I might be able to take this one from the nether regions of virtual world, if that's all right.
That's absolutely fine.
Hey, Veronica, are we able to put that PDF up on the screen of the strategic goals, that last page? I didn't, you and I never connected late to see if you had access to that or not. If not, I can talk through everything.
It's on the screen, Chance.
Okay, maybe I'm just not seeing it on my end, so that's all right. So I'll talk through it then. If you guys got,
I don't see it either.
yeah, it sounds like it's not on the virtual side.
Yeah, there's no screen.
So they haven't been seeing anything else? Hold on.
If we can't figure it out, I can talk through it. At least we're covering half of us. There we go. Veronica, go to the last page, unsheltered, homeless, and other. There we go. Perfect. So I think this is the last area we left off on. And I kind of pulled these out and together. I think I think some of these maybe, in my opinion, could be overruled here. Didn't fit with the MSD. And then some of them were just potentially just much larger, broader subjects that I wanted to just pull out by themselves to talk through as a committee and kind of, see where we take some of these. So I'll start with the first one, building plaques. And I think this might be a two-parter. I think someone put building plaques on here, and then there were some comments put on the sheet. But building plaques and MSD's roles with the building history plaques and so on. So my understanding of the historic building plaques here in downtown, and not only downtown, but throughout the historic district and others and buildings that are on the historic register, these plaques are managed through Historic Wilmington. There's an application process, and as well, I believe there's an internal Historic Wilmington committee that goes through this process. Is anyone aware of this process?
Yes, I'm aware of the process. It's a very talented committee of historians, and you have to present a title search going back to construction of the building. And also through that process, you learn about the architecture and prior owners, and it's worth every penny, so I wouldn't want to take away from that charity.
Yeah, and that's kind of when I talked to the plan, I didn't talk to our historic planner, but I talked to our downtown planner, previous downtown planner, who had had a lot of history with this. And unless the committee disagrees, I almost think this one just stays with the Historic Wilmington Foundation, and the MSD doesn't touch it. But I'm not sure who put this on here and kind of what kind of feedback you've got for the group on this idea.
It came from Nancy, and which I definitely respect. And then I did the response for Team HWF.
Okay. Nancy, do you have any input on this one?
Yes, I wasn't really talking about plaques, but signage on each building. That's something that the landlord can do, is to tell you just a brief little history of what that building used to be. At least in the Cotton Exchange, there are 8 different buildings which housed grain silos, barber shops, there was grocery stores. So the Historic Wilmington Foundation, theirs is, Elizabeth said, a lot more detail. It is a talented group. It also is expensive to get that done. But I would leave the official plaques, which are brown and black, and I think they're going to another color if you're over 200 years now, with them. But if you want to own your building, just do a little, you can do a blurb about what it used to be in the old days. That was the only signage I was talking about. Okay.
Any other input on this one? Definitely makes sense, Nancy. I'll when I summarize all this, we'll loop it back into kind of a short-term, midterm idea then. So thank you for the clarity.
Sure.
Nancy, I have a meeting with Travis Gilbert next week, and I'll bring this up to him, and maybe we can put our heads together and think of something, a good, solution. Maybe we can even partner on it. I'm not sure.
Awesome, Christina. Before we go to the next items, anyone else on this one? Okay, we'll move to the next. I think the next two kind of go together. Long input here about just the homeless dynamic downtown. And then just a no out of sight, out of mind mentality, please. And just some notes about the news reports and potentially shuffling folks into the residential areas. And then the second piece of this is just a note on aggressive panhandlers. More should be done to clear folks sitting on the sidewalks and asking for money. areas are sidewalks, not sit-ins. I won't go through the rest of it. I think the committee gets the gist of these two items. Before I open it up, just a couple of notes here. Homeless dynamic is definitely a complicated one, to say the least, not only in our community but nationwide right now. And I think this committee has done an amazing job thus far, and same with WDI and the MSD team of bringing on the outreach position through WDI and block by block. And I think Jack's effort in that position over the last 2.5 years now, it's been amazing. I think there's still tons of work to do, but what Jack and this committee kind of brought to downtown was modeled with and after the city's outreach partnership with the county. I think it's Project Coming Home as of recent, which is their pilot project. And I've personally gotten phone calls from the city of Asheville over the last, I'd say within the last 45 days, about not only the MSD's portion of this and Jack's role, but also Project Coming Home. So what we're doing locally, as I said, there's still a lot of work to be done, but what we're doing locally on the homeless and panhandling dynamic is others are already reading about it and asking for input. So I just wanted to put that out there as we talk about this one. So.
If we are better than Asheville, I would not brag about that. If anyone's seen Asheville decline, it's horrific. As I was parking for the meeting this morning, just about 30 minutes ago, Stephen was shirtless and accosting a group of homeless people, college students at Grace in front. So he's shirtless and he's like sweating, and it's mostly men, and they look terrified, and they're trying to cross Grace to get to Clean Juice, and he's tacking right with them. And this was a guy that looked scared. So more needs to be done. More has to be done. It's not like this in other parts of town that have commercial districts. It might be that way in other parts of town that have large wooded tracts, but we're taking it very hard down here. And if guys are looking scared at 3:15 in the afternoon, we really need to look at ourselves and never pat ourselves on the back that we might be doing a little bit better than Asheville, because I think we've seen what's happening to their economy.
Well, we're really trying. I've had several meetings just this week with trying to figure out solutions to our problem. I've met with the folks for downtown Austin, who has a much more strenuous situation than we do down here. These are challenges that are being faced by small to large cities all over the country. And I'm really trying to find solutions, maybe some outside of the box ideas to help remedy the issues that we are seeing downtown. Unfortunately, the resources, it's hard to find the resources. And Jack's doing his best to connect folks, but when we take somebody to a shelter and a shelter is completely full, they just return right back here. Downtown becomes a daytime shelter, honestly. And it is a whack-a-mole situation. And I do recognize that, but we're really trying to find solutions and have the conversations that we need to have to help alleviate some of the issues that the property owners, the residents, and the visitors face. And I'm just not sure what those solutions are just yet, but I'll promise to keep working towards those.
I was encouraged to read that the ambassadors have completed a 4-part training series about how to deal with some of the mental health issues that the homeless have, and also how to de-escalate situations that normally you'd call a police person to come, but to actually diffuse it before it got to there. I'm impressed that they all took that class.
My own comments is I go beyond, it's not just MSD's issue to try to provide remedy to this. This is a real big issue. It involves on many parties from very diverse entities. And my own feeling is that what limited role that we do with the outreach coordinator, the only thing that we fund for, is he gives us as advisory committee members an insight of what's going on in the homeless population. Beyond that, whatever MSD or the WDI and the city of Wilmington, the county and the state and all the NGOs, that's a whole pattern that it takes a whole tent to try to address this problem and not just limit it to, I don't think it'd be reasonable to think that WDI and the MSD are going to be able to get on top of all these issues alone.
Well, if it takes walking some of these property owners and general managers who are facing these issues and holding their hand and taking them through every chain that possible to find solutions, you know, I try to do that.
I know you do.
But if the resources aren't available, there's only just so much that we can do. And yes, WDI is a very limited organization and we can only do so much. And there's a number of other things that are outside of our scope that we just can't control.
But like
Hey,
you
and
said, it is up to everybody, because I know Christina has worked with several of the establishments that sell alcohol, not to sell alcohol to some of the troublemakers. I mean, again, we were just talking not too long ago, someone came into a store and was raising hell, but nobody called anybody.
Right.
So if we don't know, we can't fix it.
And real
Yeah.
quick, hey, this is Lieutenant Nichols. I just wanted to chime in also. Stephen, as well as a handful of our guys that we're dealing with down here, our hands are tied too. We're taking them to jail for the drunken disruptive or drinking in public or trespassing. And there's a number of these guys, I can name 4 or 5 off the top of my head right now, that have 20 plus pending charges and they're getting unsecured bonds. They're not even holding them at the jail. So they're turning around and getting back downtown before we even return to the district down here. How they're getting here, I have no clue, but you know, we're trying on our end as well. And it's just, we're having the same issues on our side.
Well, maybe somebody could loop in the DA's office.
They've been made aware and that's all I've been told.
Take them to the
Like I said,
sheriff's office on Blue Clay Road.
Right. And like I said, we got out with one yesterday. He had 29 pending charges within the last 45 days.
Well, this needs to perhaps get some press. I mean, I think this is a story again told across the country, unsecured bond.
And-
We, not necessarily the committee, but if people that,
Right.
that's the committee's wish for press, but that is something you can do because that's the situation. If you do your job, who do you hand it to?
And downtown Austin is having the same issues with the cycle of folks that are going into jail and the criminal justice system not really just basically has their hands tied in the situation. So there's a few resources that they've sought out that have had some improvement, and I've got some phone calls coming up to see if maybe we can connect their resources to, you know, have maybe the city or the county look at, but it's, I don't know if press is the solution. I think having these conversations with our city council members and with the police department and the DA's office and making sure that they understand the problems and issues that we are facing, maybe the first step. And, you know, if we host a forum or something, you know, maybe that might be a good way to gather folks. Because I don't want to lose any of our businesses to this issue.
Mhm.
And I've got a lot of aggravated folks that I speak to on a weekly basis.
Hey, just for the committee's further situational awareness on this one, would we like to see a rep from the project coming home just present to the committee and kind of talk through not only their efforts within the district, but but also outside the district as well. I mean, I think they're a big piece of this and supplemental to the historic efforts of what we've done downtown, but definitely a piece of this. I think it could be beneficial for them to present just as a situation awareness, like I said, and give the committee an opportunity to ping them with questions and comments as well.
I like the idea of the forum, getting what you say, key players, police department, city council, MSD membership, WDI, getting them to host, somebody to host that forum. That way you can bring those issues up. Why, the lieutenant can bring out the fact, hey, I got 29, a guy that had 29 unsecured bond issues within 45 days. And eventually if those things don't get handled after post forum, I don't think there's anything wrong going to the press. Sometimes you need to push. And if it's out of control, gets out of control, you need to push. I mean, we need to push, not just MSD. The citizens have to push.
I like the effort. You mentioned that those who sell alcohol have been asked not to sell or present. What about food?
I haven't asked them not to sell alcohol.
Okay.
That's legally you can't prevent a
Okay.
business from selling alcohol. What I have done is I've presented the situation to many of the establishments where our unhoused folks, known unhoused folks, have been repeatedly buying beer, getting very intoxicated on our street and trashing our alleyways and trashing our areas. What I did do is go with one of our MSD officers and some of our ALE officers to approach them with the subject and let them know the situation that we are facing in the MSD, the trash issues that we are facing, the human waste issues that we are facing, and making them aware that this is where they're purchasing their alcohol, and to be aware if they should come in to try and purchase again, that there is a legal ramification if they sell alcohol to an already intoxicated person.
Good point. What about food? Where are they being fed?
There are still feedings happening on the near the library. And then feedings are going on at the new daytime shelter at First Fruit Ministries off of, I believe it's Fifth and Market. It's in a report previously, but it's just I think it's maybe 1 day a week shelter that folks can go in, they can get fed, they can, get out of the heat. And that's where Jack makes a number of contacts and helps try and connect people to services.
Have you talked with the district attorney about any of these other problems, or the unsecured bonds, or this whole host of problems that we are having? And you eloquently put them in words, but I'm wondering if it's falling on the ears that Mike could actually do something, or Judge Jay Corpening. This would be something I think that he would be interested in addressing. Ben David certainly would.
I have not yet approached any of our judicial officials, no ma'am.
Maybe just go up to the top floor of the courthouse and introduce yourself. I think it's the 5th floor, the DA's office. They have a nice lobby. You can sign a list to check in and speak with someone, and that might just be a good introduction to the other side of the bond issue.
Yes, I don't think these people are hearing from our side of this. I know you could get an appointment with Ben David.
I think that's where the forum would work, and have those people involved in the forum.
True, yeah.
I can speak with our city partners on this. I think any forum would need to be called by our elected leaders.
With us eagerly participating.
All right, I think we'll all agree, still a lot of work to be done on this one. We'll keep this one on the, I think it probably covers many categories of short, mid, and long term. So when I draft the notes and compile all this, we'll kind of put the overarching unsheltered homeless subject in pretty much all POTS categories here. Before we move on to the last two, any other comments on that one? All right, I'm going to skip over one and then combo these two at the end. So the next one would be city street parking limited to one side between Grace and Dock Street. I think this one was Chris's comment and note. I think him and I talked about this one. I don't know this one pertains to the MSD per se, but it's definitely noted on my end for any future streetscaping type projects and or as we progress with any kind of strategic goals within the downtown parking advisory committee here. But Chris, I'll let you kind of talk through what your reasoning was on the comment in terms of visibility and everything.
I just think it adds on, downstream to what's already been done on already past projects, including Front Street. I mean, Front Street made a marked improvement as a result of that particular project. And I know people have talked for the last several years about projects of dealing with alleyways. I just add the one side of the side street because it would open up a little bit more visibility to those business owners and customers on predominantly those two streets. That would be between Second and Front. And now with the city taking over additional parking, I mean, there's a lot of parking that's becoming more available as a result of that purchase, which also kind of brings it back to the trolley. Maybe the trolleys need to start eventually stopping at where those parking lots are to move people around as well. That's really what I had more than anything else. It's kind of a forward projects that you might want to consider.
Yep, noted. Definitely as any other future streetscaping projects take place downtown, definitely will be noted in that planning side. Any other comments on this one from the group before we go into transportation downtown?
Nope.
All right. The last two pretty much go together. I think one was the visibility of the trolley. A lot of people not knowing that we even have a trolley. And the second, the trolley route and timing needing to be adjusted. McKay, were both of these yours?
Is that on?
I don't think he's on, Chance.
Oh, sorry. I believe one, if not both, were McKay's. Comments I have before kind of send it out to the committee. Obviously there's a governing board for the trolley, and that is WAVE. WAVE's funded many different ways through public dollars and grant dollars. So I think we definitely have some input, could have some input on this, but as you know, that trolley also runs outside of the district. And because it's being funded by federal dollars, it takes moving a rock to change some of this stuff on that side. So what I think some of the ideas and talking points of this is, how could we potentially supplement and improve upon what the trolley already does downtown within the MSD district? How could we supplement it with a kind of an improved point-to-point type transportation system, whether it's golf carts, pedicabs, those type ideas. So with that, I'll just kind of open it up for any further discussion.
Well, just as an FYI, Chance, that's one thing that McKay and the WDI's Downtown Development Committee are working on right now. are a couple of different options for supplements.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I've received some proposals and I'm still working through those, and cycling that through our committee. We're actually going to be meeting next week, having a first meeting kind of with a collective business ownership that's on invitation only, really to kind of gauge interest and possible engagement by those businesses. But funding options for these types of modes of transportation to really mobilize our pedestrians throughout the district is I'm finding is very limited, if not available at all. So we're going to have to figure out that method moving forward, and it may take a few more months before we're able to release any presentation on that.
Yeah, thanks, Christina, Tom. I think let's see what comes of those internal downtown committee stakeholder meetings on the WDI side, and I think this idea potentially supplementing some district transportation is definitely something that could fall within the MSD, especially on the funding side, as a potential. So I think it could definitely be advantageous to bring this one back to the group probably sooner than later and have a further discussion on it.
This is Ann, and wouldn't it be great if it was part of like letting those all the new city people down at the PPD building get to downtown Wilmington for lunch? Was there discussion about that at one point for the trolley? So that we're continuing to support the downtown businesses with all those folks have to get out to lunch and or dinner after work?
There is a trolley stop in front of that building.
Yeah,
And originally it was, when PPD was first built, it stopped there every 15 minutes. But again, that's one of the things that McKay is spearheading, is that's very much front focused.
Okay.
That section of town to bring everybody down to Front Street.
One of the reasons for Wave Transit's trolley, free downtown trolley, was because of PPD and linking PPD with downtown and with parking spaces. It turns out that I don't think more than 3 or 4 people a day from PPD ever use the trolley. And I would not expect much change with the city moving in there. It just hasn't been used, and I don't know why. The extension of the Wave trolley route to go down to Greenfield Lake was really spearheaded by one of the city councilmen, and worked with Wave Transit to develop that route, and it also included Castle Street. The intent was it would open up Castle Street, Greenfield Lake, and the downtown and connect them. I think the idea was good, but I suspect it hasn't worked. I don't think there's much ridership.
Again, the homeless issue also bumps up on that, especially when it's free.
There's no question. There's a nice air-conditioned ride.
Yeah.
But how many people here have ever been on the trolley
I used to use it frequently until it changed, that last route change.
until they changed that?
Yeah.
last-
Yeah,
I was
it's
saying,
useless now.
I think there's probably a good reason to shorten the route, bring it back into the downtown area and make it more frequent, because the frequency is certainly a problem.
Yeah, I was on
But it's-
that,
it's
I was
a-
on that committee, and when I kept
Yeah, it's a never,
reiterating that, they quit inviting me.
yeah, it's a never-ending challenge, though. Without ridership, you can't really justify. They have 2 trolleys, or maybe more now.
actually, I think technically I have 3, but only one is running. The
Only
other
one
2
is
are for
running, yeah.
parts. Yeah.
The original idea some years ago was that we'd run 2 trolleys. Each one would run on a 20-minute thing, so you'd have a trolley every 10 minutes.
Yep.
And that ridership just doesn't support that.
And it was great when the app worked. That's when I used it the most. So I go, walk, okay, it's gonna be here in 5 minutes. Walk out to the corner and jump on it. Absolutely, Bill.
And the trolley being run by Wave Transit, the stakeholders downtown don't have much control over what happens with the trolley and the funding behind it and that sort of thing. You know,
That's not completely true because being a free trolley, it's really supported more heavily by the city of Wilmington than any of the other funding sources.
right. We're looking at a pilot program that can maybe supplement what the city is already doing. And, you know, I'm still engaging with the city to see if we can do something about the trolley in addition to, so yeah, we can continue those conversations for sure and see if we can
The big problem is this is just not a city that uses public transportation, period. Just doesn't.
That, one of the biggest things, it's that Wave gets thrown in the bus for, forgive the pun, is there's so many different people that want that trolley to do so many different things. There's no way that it can make all of them happy. So something's going to have to be decided at some point with which groups are going to be made happy and go with that. And something came up earlier about it being free, and there's been a couple of times that it's been suggested. Have suggested that there be some minimal fee, $1 or something to ride it, and that alone would probably improve the ride and increase the frequency.
And that's been one of the topics that have come up with the supplement that is going around. Again, some kind of nominal fee or membership or something to.
And I offered as the CVB to be the first one to buy tokens that we could hand out to folks at the convention center to go out for lunch and stuff like that. So
That's great.
be happy to buy thousands of dollars of them. I already spend quite a bit on transportation, so.
I think the WMPO is actually bringing that topic up in the coming months.
That and a 15-minute route, I believe, would make a huge difference.
Agreed.
And I've also brought up before, tying it to one of the decks and the new PPD deck, for lack of a better name for it. I think would be a good central point. I've mentioned that to Chance, and it's so I think that those three things could really make a huge difference.
All right.
15-minute would be nice, but what is that 15-minute route?
That very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, do we now stop Castle Street?
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, somebody's got to make a decision of who's going to be happy and who's
Yeah.
not. I don't want to be that person.
All right. I think that's it for the submitted goals. What I plan to do now is kind of compile at least high level comments, suggestions within those goals, and hopefully get it out to the committee prior to our September meeting. And then we can kind of prioritize and hopefully we've got a working draft that we can point to as we progress into, short-term and long-term, budget funding goals as we move forward.
Hey, Chance, just one item real quick, because it was previously discussed, but there's been change. The city is buying the Coast Guard property, and there was items previously mentioned about green space. Shouldn't we add, what kind of ideas we can kick around MSD to provide helpfully input to the city of Wilmington?
Sure, Chris. And I was going to briefly talk about that one in the city update.
Okay.
But yeah, city has purchased the Coast Guard property as of recent. I don't think it's officially exchanged hands yet. We're going through the closing process, I think, over the next 30 to 60 days. As you would imagine, a government entity working with a federal government entity isn't a quick or seamless process, so to speak. So what I will say is the city, prior to the purchase, the city had planned on the final piece of streetscaping there on North Water Street by the courthouse in between Market and Princess Street. And those designs were from 2+ years ago, probably slightly outdated. And then you add on the purchase and acquisition of that property, which brings in the parking lot piece, the further bulkhead up north, and really the connecting piece of what the Riverwalk should be right now. And then the long-term potential green space idea. And I think you basically have almost brought it back to square zero on a plan. Per my understanding, there is funding currently available to complete the streetscaping piece. The planned streetscaping piece in front of the courthouse, probably with some minor expansion into some of that property, probably from Princess Street South, really to connect the Riverwalk portion of what that is right there. There's going to be a remaining bulkhead just on the water side of that Coast Guard parking lot. And then the parking lot. So the redesign of those areas into potential quote unquote green space is what's going to be a longer term, needing funding and needing some ideas. So I think we've got some time. And I'd be happy to maybe bring that one back to the group, maybe as a separate idea as we progress, once we know kind of where council and engineering want to take the ideas and time frame and stuff.
Thank you.
And Chris, also, now that I still don't think we can do it until we own it. And I've asked the question for you. You had mentioned folks walking past the signage through those two bollards and getting trapped on that bulkhead piece of it by the fence. I think one of the priority number ones is to better secure that area once we officially own it, and put some signage up there to direct folks to the right where they should be going up Water Street. So it's on engineering's radar. So I didn't want to leave that one out there.
Must have been 600 people on that bulkhead during the 4th of July fireworks display. You know, anybody would have fallen in, would have been really nasty. But yeah. Well, the other thing I saw, which was good, was repair some docks downtown Wilmington. There's a section of new docks that had replaced docks that had been basically end of life. So I don't know who's doing that, but it was good to see.
Yeah, let me see if I can get some more information on that. I think that's intertwined with a lot of the Riverwalk CIP work as well. So. All right, Tom.
Thank you, Chance.
Yeah, hand it back over to you.
And now on to reports, Lieutenant Nichols.
Hey, so the month of July was pretty busy. Our ABC guys did 10 bar inspections with 1 violation. We had 42 citations written. A lot of them were for underage consumption, open container, trespassing, those sorts. We had 18 drug charges, 13 being misdemeanor citations. We had 5 felony arrests out of downtown. We made 4 arrests for auto B&Es. So that was a very good arrest, and we had 4 DWIs. We've also added a new horse to our unit. So we now have 4 horses and 4 mounted riders. Essentially in the next couple months, what we're planning on doing is having 7-day coverage. We'll have 2 horses on each day, 7 days a week. So we'll be seeing more of those guys down here every single day. But other than that, nothing major to report.
Great, thank you, Lieutenant. And back over to WDI.
So I'll just go over some of the highlights of the MSD report. And if you guys have any questions about it, just please let me know. Hospitality and contacts increased by 67% from July the previous year. And we also had some pretty good numbers in business contacts and motorist assists. We saw a huge decline in graffiti and handbill. We decreased handbill removal by 95% and handbill removal decreased by 78%. So the tactics that we have our ambassadors using to, rapid removal of graffiti and handbills has been pretty effective. I have seen some more this in August, but we've taken them away in just a few hours. So we're doing pretty good on that. We did in late June complete the $20,000 landscaping project that this committee approved. We installed 300 Asiatic jasmine plants all along 3rd Street, portions of at the foot of Market Street at Front and Market, and then down Front Street right up until you get to Chestnut Street. I'm sorry, Princess. So that continues to look pretty good. I think we've only lost about 2 or 3 Asiatic jasmine plants due to heat. But we also refurbished the tree wells on 3rd Street and put some Asiatic jasmine in there. And our MSD team has been continuously watering those intermittently as we see the rains kind of spread few and far between. I did tell our team to protect our jasmine plants, mainly in the main traffic areas along Front Street and Market. So if you've seen some of those white stakes go up with some roping around it, I had those put in place just a couple weeks after the project to make sure that they were long lasting and didn't get stepped on by the foot traffic on Front Street. And overall, the ambassadors team is doing really well. We are also doing pretty good on our outreach to the homeless population. And again, just continuing to work on issues as we see them.
The graffiti from last night in the visitor center's restroom, is that, Christina, are you guys working on that, or is that city since it's inside the restrooms?
Inside the restrooms?
Yeah, are you aware of that one? It happened last night.
No, James hasn't, the operations manager hasn't reported that to me, but if it's inside, maybe our team hasn't been notified of it yet. It may be the city side, but I'll check on that today.
It was a tag. It looked familiar, so probably somebody you've seen before.
All right, thank you, Christina, and back to Chance.
Thanks, Tom. Since Chris stole my thunder on the Coast Guard property, only other one I had on my list was the 929 North Front Street Thermo Fisher City acquisition. City closed on the campus and properties, I believe July 13th. We will be transitioning city offices up there, I'd say within the next few months and probably over the next few months. We opened the parking deck for the first time publicly since it was built for its first concert on August the 6th, parked about 175 vehicles. We will continue to open up that parking facility just for special events only until we can transition into the appropriate parking technology to have it open to the public 24/7. We're anticipating that transition most likely happen probably mid-fall, somewhere between the October and November timeline. And as I think many of you heard, the idea outside the building and the parking deck is surplus, or at least surplus portions of the 2 parcels on the north side undeveloped and the south side, which is currently a parking lot for potential sale. And then the assumption would be a future redevelopment on both of those parcels there on the north end. Out of that, that's all I got, Tom.
Great, thank you, Chance. If there's no questions, I need a motion to adjourn.